Northeast Florida is one of the only places I've ever seen where the place actually fits your life. Whatever your version of the good life looks like for you, it does exist here. But before you pack a single box, I am going to give you the real honest picture, the good, the bad, and everything in between. 4 pros and 4 cons. Today I'm going to go ahead and pair them directly because I think that's the most honest way to look at this. Every great thing about Northeast Florida, it has a flip side, and every con has context that makes it manageable. So let's start with the biggest pro of them all. The lifestyle. The number one pro of living in Northeast Florida is in fact the lifestyle. And I know that sounds like a vague thing to say, so let me be specific about what I actually mean. In Northeast Florida, you can live 5 minutes from one of the most beautiful stretches of the Atlantic coastline in the entire country. You can live in a master plan community with resort style amenities and walking trails, a community pool, and neighbors who actually know your name. You can even live, if you prefer the more historic side of things, St. Augustine. You can walk the cobblestone streets on a dinner or to a dinner on a Tuesday night. You can live on the St. Johns River and kayak before work. You can live in Ponte Vedra and be 20 minutes from both beach and the city. The point is, Northeast Florida does not force you into one version of Florida living. It gives you options. And the buyers I work with who move here from New York, New Jersey, Michigan, Illinois, they all say some version of the same thing. They say, I did not realize I was going to be able to live like this, not just on weekends, but every single day. Now, the outdoor season here is essentially year-round. January and February bringing cooler temperatures, but you're still sitting on your porch. You're still walking a trail, you're still going to the farmer's market on Sundays. Compare that to where most of my clients are coming from, where you are genuinely trapped indoors from November through April. That shift in daily life is one of the things most people talk about after they make this move. But let's be fair, let's look at the flip side, because with that year-round outdoor lifestyle comes the one thing that most people moving from northern states are probably not prepared for, and that is the heat and humidity. Let me be completely honest with you about the summers here, because I think that is something most people underestimate when they are researching Northeast Florida, especially if you're coming from a cold state in February. So I would say from roughly late May through mid to late September, it is hot. Not warm, I'm talking hot. Regular temperatures in the low mid 70s to 80s with humidity that makes it feel sometimes hotter. The heat index on a typical July afternoon in Jacksonville could possibly sit at 90 to 95 degrees, maybe higher, and the humidity here honestly is real. It's the kind of heat that hits you the moment you walk outside, not here. Well, now here's the context. Most people who live here, they adapt their schedule around it. You do your outdoor things early morning, evening, you stay cool in the middle of the day. The communities are built for it with pools, shaded trails, covered outdoor spaces. And the flip side of the intense summer heat is that from October to April, the weather here is honestly just spectacular. 60s and low 70s most days with low humidity and blue skies. The overwhelming majority of people who move here, they say it's absolutely worth it once they experience their first Northeast Florida October. Now, let me tell you about the pro that for a lot of my clients is actually the number one reason they're making this move. And it's not the beach, it's gonna be the money. No state income tax and cost of living that's really low. So Florida has 0 state income tax, none. If you're a household income of $150,000 and you're moving from New York, you're saving potentially $12,000 to $15,000 a year just by changing your zip code. For my retirement age buyers, the picture is even more dramatic. Florida does not tax Social Security income. Florida does not tax pension income. Florida doesn't even tax retirement account distributions. Every dollar of your retirement income, it stays yours. Now on the property tax side, the Florida homestead exemption reduces what you owe significantly. In Duval County, the effective property tax rate right now is about 0.89% to 1.1 on a $500,000 home. With the homestead exemption applied, you're looking at roughly $4,000 to $5,000 per year in property taxes. Compare that to New Jersey, where the same $500,000 home costs you $11,000 a year in property taxes. That is $6,000 a year back in your pocket just from property taxes alone and on housing. Now, what $500,000 buys you in Northeast Florida in 2026 compared to what it buys you in most northern markets, it's just not a fair comparison. here that budget gets you a brand new construction home, 4 to 5 bedrooms, modern finishes, community amenities in a master plan community in one of the fastest growing regions in the country. But here is the financial con that most real estate videos about Florida, either they kind of gloss over or they just completely ignore, and you need to hear this before you move. That's going to be your homeowner's insurance. Now, homeowners insurance in Florida is expensive, and it's gotten more expensive in recent years. This is something I believe every person who is considering a move into Northeast Florida, you deserve to know it up front rather than discovering it at closing, right? So for a new construction home in like the $400,000 to $600,000 range in Jacksonville or St. Johns County, you're typically looking at like $2,000 to $4,000 per year in just homeowners insurance. That's real money, and it gets higher than most of my clients were paying back home on comparable homes. So like for older homes, the picture just gets more challenging. Homes built before the 2000s in Florida can carry significantly higher insurance costs because they were not built to what the current Florida building code looks like. Some national carriers have pulled back from Florida in recent years, which has reduced competition and kept prices pretty much elevated. New construction homes in Northeast Florida are built to current Florida building code, and they qualify for lower insurance rates because of that. My strong advice is to get insurance quotes before you go under contract on any home, not after. Know what your monthly cost of ownership actually is before you commit. All right, so let me show you the pro that a lot of buyers moving from out of state probably react to the most when they actually see it for the first time. And that's gonna be the pro of new construction value. So Northeast Florida has one of the most active and diverse new construction markets in the entire country right now. Communities like Nocatee, Bartram Ranch, Silverleaf in St. Johns County, Seven Pines and Everrange in Jacksonville, even Newbrook and Rivertown, and the level of home you can access at $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 here is something that buyers from New York, New Jersey, Illinois, you have to see it in person to actually believe it. Brand new construction, 4 to 5 bedroom homes, open floor plans, 10-foot ceilings, gourmet kitchens, primary suites that honestly feel like hotel rooms in master plan communities with resort style pools, pickleball courts, walking trails, and schools that rank in the top tier of the state. And because you're buying new construction, you're starting the clock pretty much fresh on everything. New roof, new HVAC, new plumbing, new electrical, builder warranties covering you for up to 10 years in some cases. No deferred maintenance surprises 6 months after you move in. For buyers who spent years in older housing stock in high cost markets, Northeast Florida new construction, it feels like real estate decision and more like a quality of life upgrade, and it's both. Now, the con that nobody who lives here loves to admit, but it's absolutely true and worth knowing about before you move, that's gonna be the traffic. Oh my gosh, the traffic. Jacksonville is a big city, and it has big city traffic, specifically I-95 and I-295 during morning and evening commute hours. It really can be annoying. Jacksonville is geographically one of the largest cities by land area in the United States. That size means that getting from one part of the city to another is going to take time. And if you're commuting from the south side to the north side or from St. Johns County into downtown Jacksonville, you're looking at potentially 30 to 50 minutes in normal traffic, potentially longer during those peak hours. Now, here's the context. Jacksonville is not Miami traffic or Atlanta traffic, right? But if you're coming from those markets, this will still feel manageable. The smart move is to think carefully about where you work and choose your community accordingly. Now, that commute math is part of the conversation that I have with every buyer before we even start looking at communities. Now, the pro that really seals the deal for almost everybody once they have been here for a full year is going to be this: year-round outdoor living and beach access. There is something that happens to people who move to Northeast Florida from cold weather states that I get to witness pretty regularly, and it never stops being my favorite part of this job. They experience their first Northeast Florida October. They realize that the beaches are 40 to 20 minutes away, and they can do that on a random Tuesday in November. They find themselves eating dinner on their lanai in February, right? They go for a morning run in January in shorts, and somewhere in that first year, they stop thinking about going back. Northeast Florida has direct access to the Atlantic Ocean, beaches including Jacksonville Beach, Neptune Beach, Atlantic Beach, and the historic beaches near St. Augustine. These are real beaches, wide stretches of Atlantic coastline with actual waves and actual sand, and the kind of views that people pay vacation money to see. And when you live here, they're just Tuesday. The outdoor lifestyle here is not a marketing claim. It is the daily reality for people who make this move. I've experienced, you're gonna experience it. And for buyers coming from places where outdoor season is 4 months long, the shift to essentially unlimited outdoor access is one of the biggest quality of life changes they can experience. And now the last con, and this one is really real, that I think is important, you gotta hear it. And this is from somebody who lives here. Hurricane season and tropical weather. Northeast Florida sits on the Atlantic coast, and that means hurricane season is a real part of life here. I'm not gonna minimize that. From June through November, every named storm that enters the Atlantic or the Gulf gets attention. You watch your tracks, you set up a plan, you keep supplies on hand. Now here's the honest context specific to Northeast Florida as it relates to hurricanes. Jacksonville and the surrounding area are generally less vulnerable to direct major hurricane impacts than the South Florida or the Gulf Coast, specifically because of our position on the northeast coast of Florida. Now that doesn't mean we're immune, it just means that the historical frequency of major direct hits here is lower than any other part of Florida. Now what we do deal with regularly is tropical weather, heavy rainstorms, tropical storms, flooding in like low-lying areas during storm surges, and just that general instability that comes with living in a region that sits in the path of Atlantic weather. So when you are buying in Northeast Florida, ask specifically about flood zone designations on any home you're considering. Homes in flood zones carry additional flood insurance costs on top of your standard homeowner's policy. New construction communities are generally built with drainage and elevation standards that reduce flood risk, but it is always worth understanding exactly what you're buying into. The people who live here long-term understand that the beauty and the lifestyle of coastal Florida, it comes with this trade-off. Most of them are gonna tell you without any hesitation, it is worth it. So who is this place for? If you're somebody who values outdoor access, year-round livability, new construction quality, and financial relief from state income taxes and high property taxes, and a genuine sense of community, Northeast Florida was built for you. If you're somebody who needs that the density and walkability of a major urban core, you can't really handle the heat and humidity for a few months out of the year, or maybe your budget just needs a very specific price point, then Northeast Florida's market probably can't serve. It's worth knowing about, and I would rather you have that conversation with me now than after you've already committed and made a move here. The buyers who actually make this move and never look back are the ones who came with realistic expectations, and they found a community that actually fits their lifestyle. That fit is what I help people find every single week. If Northeast Florida sounds like it might be your place, reach out to me. My info is on the screen right now. Tell me what your version of the good life actually looks like, and I'm gonna tell you exactly which community in Northeast Florida actually will deliver on it. And if you wanna go deeper on the communities and price point in Northeast Florida, watch my video here on the left and download my relocation guide. It is loaded with info with everything you need. God bless you, and I'll see you in the next one.